Today we are joined by a friend of the show, Orion Cosce. Orion, welcome back.
How's it going? It's good to be back on.
It is really nice having you on the show somewhat regularly. Had you on first right before your Dana White Contender Series fight in August, and then back on just after your big win and getting that contract. Now, there's been a few big things even bigger than that because you got married. So congratulations to you and your bride.
Thank you. Yeah, it was huge. It was awesome. It was, everyone tells you ain't going to cry, and then all of a sudden you have a couple of tears because of just how damn beautiful. There she is. Hey, bud. Okay. But let's see. Yeah, no, it was awesome. You know, the honeymoon was great. There was a tropical storm, and that pulled a hurricane towards us. And yeah, I've already told her after this fight, I'll take her on another honeymoon. Hopefully, Switzerland and Italy open up. I want to take her to Europe.
Oh, wow. You'd prefer Europe over like the tropical beach paradise?
Well, I prefer all sorts of seasons and times, but for me, it was more so I want to go enjoy the snow. I want to go enjoy the Alps
okay.
and enjoy Europe, at least once during the winter/fall. And then again, during the spring, summer, I'm going to I fight because I like to travel.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's good to know that that's a future plan for you once Europe is off their COVID lockdown. So, yeah, obviously. And you had Lewis there for your wedding. What was it like? Obviously, your wedding day is the best day of your life, clearly. Did it mean anything to you, the fact that you guys are both sitting in a position on your wedding day, both being signed UFC fighters, in the sense that it wasn't like one of you got in, one of you didn't? Or is that all out of your mind because it was your wedding day?
Yeah, it was one of those things where we're just joking around about all of it. He is like, there's still time, bro. The car's in the back.
Oh, no.
And it was just more so like I told him, like, I want them to make some jokes. That way I'm like keeping calm. Because I told myself, I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm not going to get nervous. But then I'm up there and I'm like, fighting's easy. But like that waiting for your bride. And then you see your bride with her dad walking out. And then her dad was crying. So I was like, don't cry. And then I was like, say something funny, Lewis. He's all, the car's in the back.
There it is. Well, good that Lewis came through with a joke.
Yeah, but I couldn't help it, man. I took her hand and all of a sudden the tears start flowing. I was like, motherfucker. I was like, don't fucking cry. So I'm crying. She's crying. Everyone's crying. And it was a beautiful moment, man. I think about it every day. And it's just, yeah, that wedding was something special. And I definitely don't want to have to do another one. So luckily,
You're good to go. Well, right before we started the interview, you said that you and your new bride had actually just been training together and that you don't do the exact same workout, but you're doing a workout with her and, you put her through a workout. What's it like training her? Is that something you've done for years now?
I've been training people for years. So it's one of those things where I'm just used to training people, and it's no exception, before her and I were even together, I was one of her coaches, and then I quit being her coach for a while because she went on travel and stuff like that. And we were just friends. And we never thought anything like that. When it comes to like coaching people, I'm strictly professional. And then I quit coaching her. And it was later on in September that I was like, hey, let's go on a date. Because I was like, I'm not training her anymore. Yeah. She's not in classes, so whatever. And then that led to us getting to know each other more and more. And yeah, eventually she came up to my fight, and she came to a couple of my fights, but she came up in January when I fought Wally Wester up in Humboldt County, and that's when I knew. I walked out of the cage and walked up straight to her, gave her a kiss, and I was like, all right, cool, yeah. And I was like, I've never done that for anyone. So my brother, he was like, you've never done that for anyone. And I was like, I know, like, what the hell's going on with me?
Well, you already answered the question. Were you more nervous at your wedding day or in a UFC fight? You've already answered that question, that you had more nerves getting married than fighting. So that's good to know.
Yeah, getting married is a huge commitment, but it's a great commitment to have, especially especially when like if they're the one, like you kind of just know. And I've had people be like, so how'd you know? And I'm like, she's my Chi-Chi. And they're like, what the fuck's that mean? I'm like, I want to slap you because you don't know Dragon Ball Z. But at the same time, I get it. It's like, you're not a man of culture, and that's okay.
I was gonna say you have your tattoo is a Dragon Ball Z, right?
Yep. So the
Yeah.
Shenron Dragon Ball Z, I got another Dragon Ball Z quote on my chest. I'm going to add more after this fight, depending on,
Sure.
I want the fast knockout. That's what I'm looking for this time. That last fight, it went 3 rounds. I feel like I made some mistakes in that first round, but I worked on those mistakes. I capitalized on those in training. I'm actually, doing a lot better in my training camp this time. And I'm not saying like my last training camp was bad. What I'm saying was, I just made some errors in the first fight where I was just so busy trying to fucking pressure forward that Matt Dixon did a really good job in that first round getting those takedowns. But as we saw in the second and the third round, once I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna sit on my punches. I'm not gonna overexpose. When I do overexpose, it's to lead into a clinch and like be dirty with the knees and the elbows, be mean with everything. Going into the next fight, first round. So if anyone wants to put money down, expect a first round finish. I'm not going to say whether it's a KO or a sub. It's going to be one or the other, but I think I'm going to finish this fight in the first round.
Well, since we're talking about the fight, you're fighting a pretty tough guy out of Denmark, which is interesting that he can get here from Denmark, although maybe he's training in the States, Nicolas Dalby. And you already gave your prediction. I looked it up, and you're fighting on UFC 255, which I'll ask about because that's going to be a heck of a card. But you're fighting in the UFC Annex, which is where the Dana White Contender series is. Do you give any credit to that you're going to be kind of a little bit more comfortable because it's not going to be a new environment, new sort of situation for you like it was last time?
I mean, with fans, without fans, I don't give a shit. Just get me in that cage and get me fighting. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to be like, a couple of the older guys that have fought around the circuit for a while and been like, I don't care about the money. I just want to fight. Obviously, I care about the money. But, I had people telling me like, oh, man, it's a tough fight for your first fight on your first contract. And then I just told them, I was like, yeah, but when I go out there and I finish this fight, that's going to help my next contract. They're going to be like, fuck, this Cosce guy's actually fucking badass. Let's give him more money. It's going to give me a chance to renegotiate early on versus, those people who do take maybe 3 fights, 4 fights before they get to restructure their contract. So the thing for me is maybe I take 1 fight with low pay against, a tough opponent, but whatever, I'm going to go out there and do what I've done best, and that's finish a fight. I don't trust no fucking judges. I said that everywhere I go. My last interview, when I was talking to you guys, I don't trust the judges. None of my fights will ever go to decision.
Well, you finished Matt Dixon as a jump back to Dana White Contender Series. You finished him. I think there was under a minute left in the third round. Was it in that range?
8 seconds left at the time of the stoppage, they said.
All right, 18 seconds left would be under a minute, quite a bit under a minute. But you definitely had pressure when you knew that fight was potentially expiring. And so you definitely fight like a guy that wants to end it, because you could have just held that crucifix position and stayed there to the end. But clearly getting the finish was what got you the contract and showed the type of fighter you were. Both you and Lewis said that night that you wanted to fight as many times, pretty rapidly in your first year in the UFC because of trying to get off that, fight off your Dana White Contender Series contract. Are you allowed to say how many fights is on that first contract? Is that something?
Yeah, I think I'm allowed to. If I get in trouble, I don't give a shit. I'm going to keep fighting for them anyway. Yeah, it's a 4-fight contract. That's typically what it is for a lot of people's first fight contracts. So it's a 4-fight contract. I can't really go into much more detail after that.
No, that's fine.
What I'm trying to is hopefully, get a good win against the big game. Everyone, and, I've been seeing a lot of people saying like, hey, this is a good first fight. Like this is how much like they believe in Cosce if they're putting against Dalby. He's been around the game for a while, so all respect to him. But, as I've said before to all my past opponents, all respect to them. My job is to fucking try to kill them, is to finish them. Yeah, and just like Goku, man, I just want to fight the best there is. And Nicolas Dalby, he's supposed to be one of the best there is. And so I'm going to go out there and, try to whoop his ass. I'm not going to try to whoop his ass. I am going to whoop his ass. But
there you go.
Have fun doing it. There's not going to be any shit talk. He's probably saying the same thing. He's probably think he's going to go out there and whoop my ass. So at the end of the day, you know, all I can say is let's still have a fun fight, and whoever gets the finish gets the finish. But I do always see myself winning the fights. You know, I'm mentally preparing myself in the worst positions. When I'm at practice, I put myself in bad positions to start working out of those. And I never actually have envisioned myself losing a fight ever. Mm-hmm. Not once have I ever thought I'm going to lose this fight, or there's a possibility I'll lose this fight, because that mental simulation training. And a lot of people don't do that as fighters. I've talked to fighters, and some of them are like, you don't ever get nervous? It's like, why would I? I've never envisioned myself losing this fight. They're like, oh man, well, you know, I was thinking about my fight coming up, and I was like, man, like, what if he does catch me with the right hook? I was like, then he's going to catch you with the right hook, because you think like a punk. Like, you're going to let that guy fucking punk you mentally right now. He's going to punk you in the cage. But when I think about my fights, I'm always thinking about, if I do get hurt, how I can capitalize and turn it back into my fight, you know? Because that's what you think about. You can't just always think positive. You got to think about positivity turning negative and then restructuring that back into how to get the fight back under control. So say I hit him with a 1-2 and he throws a high kick and I get rocked. Now I got to think about, do I need to get the clinch? Do I need to do a snap? Do I need to go for the double leg? What would be the best scenario right there, depending on each and every outcome that can lead back to me regaining control to getting the finish. I remember my fight against Joe Cropshot. It was my fourth pro fight, and it was in San Fran. I remember one position I knew I could not get into was to let him have the back, because he had really good jiu-jitsu, especially on the back. In one position I always mentally trained was, if he gets the rear naked choke, getting the fuck out of it. And right off the bat, in the beginning of the fight, you know, he ended up having a nice little trip while I was going for a knee. He got on top. I went to buck out, and motherfucker had long legs and long arms. I think it's 4 or something like that. But he ends up taking the back and going for the rear naked choke. But because, you know, the whole entire time leading up to the fight, hey, this is how we work out of it. This is the position. If he goes for something else, that's the position. If he wants to do this, we do this. And over and over and over again, I got out, you know, ended up retaking the round, and then the second round, dropping him, third round, finishing him. Mm-hmm. Well, that's that mental, you know, stimulus training. And I truly do believe in it. And a lot of people are probably thinking like, oh, well, where'd you get that idea? Well, Dragon Ball Z. A lot of that shit holds true. And it comes from different martial arts structure. You know, if you're not able to train for a day because you're injured, say you hurt your elbow, you could be going for a run though. But say like the running is causing your elbow to have pain, well, then just do lunges in place. Do something that's not going to cause you to stop moving. But also at the same time, watch videos, watch technical videos, watch drilling videos. If you're training at a gym, go to the gym anyway. Have an ice pack on, but watch. That way you can stimulate your mind to be able to react faster and faster and faster to it. Do reaction training, do stimulus training. I truly believe in that. It's worked out so far for me.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that you were talking about with the stimulus training is it really leads to in-fight, mid-fight adjustments, which is something that we've actually seen. We've actually heard commentators say, oh, that, you know, the fight's not going their way in the first round, and then it just kind of slides downhill from there, as opposed to what you're talking about is knowing how to adjust when a fight isn't going the direction you want it to and steer it back to what's good for you. Like you were giving the example from your fourth pro fight of that exactly happened. We've seen it all too often, particularly on the Dana White Contender Series, or guys without less experience where they look frustrated, they kind of give up. We've seen rear naked chokes where the guy will just kind of like, you know, just like lay back and just sort of, oh crap, I'm screwed, as opposed to fighting what they need to fight and things like that. You've really shown that. What do you think in your pro career? You're 7-0. What do you think so far has been your best change during a corner? Where obviously your Matt Dixon fight was a good example, but in your 7 fights, does one stand out where you came out of a corner with a different mindset, game plan, or adjustment with that stimulus training that really made an impact, or are all of them kind of like that?
I don't think when I fight, but like in between rounds, I'll talk to my corners. I'll hear them out, and then I'll talk back, and I'll be like, don't worry about it. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to rock this time. I'm going to hurt him. And they'll be like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go hurt him. And I'll just smile, and they'll be like, all right, then just fucking do it. But in between rounds, you know, I think it was more so the fight against Cropshot. We kept grappling, where I kept hurting him on the stand up, and then I was hurting him on the ground. And there was positions where I was going for submissions when I should have just stayed on top and kept hitting him. And so, like, my brother's fucking yelling at me during the middle of the third round. He's all, get the fuck up, get off him. He's all, fucking hit him. He's all, no more grappling, fuck that shit. And I'm like, all right, get up. And so we start going, and I finished on the stand-up. He's all, yo, I was yelling. I was like, no, I heard you finally. Like, I heard you, you know. He's like, what? So my corners afterward are, why were you trying to go for triangles? Why are you trying to go for arm bars? I was like, because I thought it was there. They're all, but you were fucking him up with the hands. I was like, again, during the middle of the fight, he went for a different position. So I think, hey, he's hovering up. I'll go for this. But I should have just kept hitting him. And those were the adjustments that I needed to make. But after that, so let's see, like the Wally Wester fight when I became 6-0. That was back in January, and that was just a fun fight overall. There's a couple of positions where we, we're just throwing bombs. He was throwing bombs that for me, it was more so just covering up. I'm used to people throwing bombs and throwing heavy, so I just keep my guard up here. And when people throw kicks, I'm still used to that fast twitch. I can guard with my elbows. I don't mind. My brother and I will kick the shit out of each other. I mean, I made that video. Fuck, that hurt too. That hit me right in the solar plex.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of training you got to do. You got to take that training in the gym because we've all seen it. When I go out into a fight, I don't get hurt. I don't get rocked. I'm fine. And I go out there and I'll just keep hitting people. And when I hit people, people have said like, oh, this guy's bigger. He's going to pressure Orion back, or Orion's going to have to figure out what to do. But that's not the case in any of my fights. I got that downriver strength is what I call it. We grew up in the woods, cutting trees and rock climbing, swimming all the time, running in the sand, wrestling around in the water. And it worked out for us. We're a different breed. Growing up poor, you got to figure out the things to do, like climbing trees and hunting animals and stuff like that. But all that so far has worked out and made it to where, you got that different style of pressure and that style of power. And even if someone's like bigger, we've seen that in my fights, people with longer reach or people that are taller. I don't care. I fought people who were 185 pounders and did a catch weight with them. And same thing, pressure. That's because of my wrestling style my whole entire life. My style was to never back up. It's to never back, pretty much to never give up any pursuit. If you start backing up, that lets them pressure you. If they're starting to pressure forward, you got to either turn the corner to pressure back or they're going to take control. And a lot of UFC fights, if you think about it, the people that win the fight are the people that continue to pressure. A lot of people haven't seen it lately, but look at Justin Gaethje. What is the one thing he did before the Khabib fight? What was the one thing he was phenomenal for? Pressure.
Pressure. Yeah, absolutely.
Pressure. And everyone knew that his pressure, he was relentless. He kept going. But what happened when he finally fought somebody whose pressure was too much for him? He threw slop like shit. Let's face fact. Terrible. And he hit Khabib with some hard shots, but they weren't good shots. They were sloppy. They were unorthodox, which is typically what he does, but they were sloppier than what he usually does because he had a guy who was pushing forward nonstop. And so he was afraid of getting out grappled. And when he got taken down, he didn't even really do much to try to get back up. He just thought like, fuck, what do I do? Because he's never been pressured like that before. So in my fights, when I'm pressuring people, it's the same thing for them. They're used to pressuring people, but what happens when you finally face somebody who doesn't back down? And so for me, I'm not going to back up. And if I do back up, it's to turn corner and re-pressure. But my game is, and everyone finally, saw it on live television against Matt Dixon. What is the one thing I did? Pressure. Yeah. Even when he's on the cage, all right, I'm going to wear his arms down. I'm going to keep hitting him. Pressure. When we're off the cage, pressure. When I'm throwing, it's with malintent. I'm trying to hurt him. I'm not trying to be his friend and pitter patter. I'm not trying to set up the knockout punch. Every single punch is the knockout punch. If I'm throwing a 6-punch combo, all 6 punches have to have mean intent behind them. I'm not out there to spar. I'm out there to hurt them. After the fight, we can shake hands, be buddy. But going into the fight, we're not friends because they're out there trying to hurt me too. So a lot of people don't understand that. I remember reading up somebody trying to say like, oh, Orion shouldn't have won that fight. His fight IQ is sloppy. And I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, is this really a fucking couch potato? A guy who's never in his life trying to say a fighter doesn't understand fight IQ, which if I didn't have fight IQ, he would have kept taking me down in the second and third round. He would have just kept taking me down. I would have stood back up, but that's all he did. That's the main thing that he had in the entire fight was 3 takedowns. After that, it was nothing. The stand-up was all mine. Third round was just domination by me. And that's how it is with other fights, you know, covering up, fine. He landed a few good punches, but they never hurt. And that's why I was able to keep pressuring. And a lot of people don't realize, if you're used to that style of pressure in the gym, if you can train yourself to nonstop be a pressure fighter, Munoz, they had a little clip of him talking about, you know, training with me in the gym. He said it. He's like a fucking tank. You got to move around him, but even then, he's just on you. And it's hard. You have to slip angles. And that's the way more fighters should be, that pressure style. That is a great style to have. And when it comes to counter fighters, if, you know, he wants to be a counter fighter this coming fight, or if there's ever a time where I'm going to start fighting counter fighters, easiest way to fight a counter fighter, get them to come to the fight. Counter fighters want you to chase. They want a pressure fighter to keep chasing. But look how boring that Yoel Romero versus Israel Adesanya fight was.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Romero, but he's a pressure fighter who knew that if he were to pressure, he would get outstruck and out-angled. So what did he do? He just stayed, turned nice and slow. And Israel Adesanya, he got upset because he felt like Yoel wasn't trying to do anything. But now here's the problem with the counter fighter. What happens when the counter fighter doesn't do anything? They look boring too. And that's what you have. Counter fighter doesn't want to fight. They just want to keep the distance. People start to realize, if you draw them in, they don't have anything. Just like a pressure fighter, if you can get a pressure fighter to commit to the counter fighter's game plan, they're going to get pulled into a sucker's game. When you have two pressure fighters, it's about who breaks first. When you have two counter fighters, it's who can pull who first. But when you have the differences, when you have a pressure fighter who can play the counter by changing angles, and that's what I do. I'll pressure, change the angle, then go. And I'll pressure with the striking, pressure with the wrestling, back to the striking, change the angle, and keep going. That right there, just a different IQ in general. That's a blend of mixed martial arts, and that's what more fighters need to do, is once they finally learn how to not only be one style of fighting, but be every style of fighting, and then that's how they evolve.
Yeah, and thanks for breaking down the 185-pound division of the UFC. That was some great insight. That's exactly what's been going on. It'll be really interesting to see what happens when Whitaker gets back there for Adesanya, because obviously he got, you know, kind of left himself exposed and got caught pressuring. But clearly the Costa fight, everybody was all excited about Costa because it was knockout power, but that's a ready-made fight for Izzy, because a guy that is going to come forward recklessly is not much of a challenge for Izzy because of how Izzy counterstrikes. So that's very, you know, that was great insight on the 185 pound division, and really probably all the divisions. When you were talking about a well-rounded fighter that's kind of the whole deal, obviously for many years it was Tony Ferguson, because he probably was one of those guys that was really doing a bit of everything: wrestling, striking, jiu-jitsu. But then, as you pointed out, by name, Justin Gaethje took that all apart just by being more dominant, more pressure, despite the fact that going into that, who did you see? I know we're going back, but who did you see as having the edge going into that Gaethje-Tony fight? Because I think that's the best fight of showing how Gaethje's pressure dismantled probably the best well-rounded guy at 55.
I said unless Ferguson uses his grappling, he was going to get his ass whooped. I told everybody, that was my friends, family, because they were like, who should I told them, Gaethje. Tell them Gaethje will win this fight. He may finish it late, or it may go to decision. But after this fight, if Ferguson doesn't try to out-grapple Gaethje, there's no way he's going to break him, because Ferguson, he's unorthodox, and I'm not going to shit on Ferguson. He you know, he's one of the top in the sport at 55. Absolutely. What he's done is amazing. And it's because his awkward, unorthodox style. But that's the difference. Like we were talking about, mixing and blending different martial arts to make it fit your style. We've seen videos of Ferguson doing some weird ass training sessions, but it does work for him. He's a little crazy. That guy's crazy, and I love it. I love it. It's awesome. But Gaethje knew going in, if he kept his hands up, he moved his head off the center line, and he threw bombs, he would hurt Ferguson. And I was telling people that, I was like, he'll outbox Ferguson. Ferguson is able to outbox people because they get tired. And Gaethje's not going to get tired this fight. He'll calm it down. His corner will help him calm it down. When he got beat by Poirier, he was winning that fight. But what happened? he kept throwing sloppy punches afterwards, trying to get the finish where he could have made a decision to win the fight. That's one of those fights where we've talked about that too. And then he learned how to settle down during the Ferguson fight. He was about to blow his load in the fourth, and his coach told him, "Get the fuck down." He's all, "Look at me." He's all, "No, you don't go out there trying to throw bombs." He's all, "Just set it up. Just set it up. Look out." And then the Imanari rules in the fifth round. He's all, "Look out for the Imanari rules." He's going to go for grappling now. But if Ferguson would have used that awkward style of fighting right off the bat and forced the grappling exchanges on the ground, I think we would have seen a different result. I think we would have seen Ferguson getting a submission win rather than what happened in that fight.
Yeah.
Poirier versus Khabib. Khabib out-pressured him. Khabib already knew that he wasn't going to have the same amount of striking. All he had to do was get inside the pocket and make Poirier worried about the clinch.
Yeah.
And everyone in any fight has already said, going into the fight, if he gets me against the cage or if he takes me down, then I'm in trouble. But there's that mindset. They already believe that if they get grabbed, if they get taken down, they're fucked. They don't move. We've seen it with every fight. One fight that I do like was Khabib. It was a fight where Khabib won, but he went for like 18 takedowns and he got all of them stuffed. Can't remember who he fought.
Was it the Iaquinta when they were, because Iaquinta did pretty well in that last minute title fight. It went to a decision with Iaquinta.
Iaquinta still got beat up. So he got taken down and out grappled and mauled for the first couple of rounds. And then Khabib him because he wore down his arms. It was a fight from a couple of years back. He not able to Trujillo where he missed, like Khabib missed weight by 3.5 pounds. It was another fight though. Like a lot of people thought he should have lost that fight. And even Joe Rogan thought that Khabib lost that fight, but he ended up winning by decision. But he had all of his takedowns stuffed. And then after the fight, everyone found out like his opponent was like popped for steroids. Then he didn't lose. He didn't lose because the guy got popped. But that guy went into the fight saying, he's not going to take me down. He won't take me down versus everyone else he's fought. Oh, I just can't let him take me down. If he takes me down, it's going to be a tough fight. Like even McGregor said it. He's all, if he does take me, I'll do my best to get back up, but we'll see what happens. I'm going to try to keep the fight standing. No, you have to believe that you can get back up. You got to believe you can throw some shots off the bottom to get back up. You can't just lay on the ground against a guy who's a grappler. And that's the problem. A lot of fighters nowadays, they go into these fights saying like, oh man, like if I can't get this guy down, I'm going to have a hard time on the stand up. And it's like, then work on your damn stand up and work on your damn mentality. And one other thing is like, even with COVID, too many big name fighters turning down fights right now. They need to start stepping up, or else us guys who are no names. Right now I'm a no name. My brother's a no name. But we're going to start climbing those ranks fast. Kamaev came into the UFC. Now everyone's complaining about how he's asking for upper level names, but isn't that the point of the game, to fight the best, to prove you're the best?
Sure. Yeah.
So I heard about it. People are saying, oh, there's a ranking system. You got to fight to your rank. And it's like, no, you don't. Look at Chris Weidman.
Yeah.
He never ranked. And he went out there and he did what? He chin checked Anderson Silva.
That's it. Yeah.
Because Chris Weidman truly believed in himself. He didn't think he needed to fight 7 times, 10 times to earn a title shot.
Yeah, it was 9-0 total. Yeah.
Fight Chris Weidman. Everyone was scared. And so he's like, dude, I want to fight the top people. Like, I'll fight the champion. It doesn't matter. And he fought for a low pay versus what Anderson made. But because he won that fight, he was able to restructure his contract, get a bigger pay. And I'm down to do that. I'm fight for a low pay against a top guy to restructure and get a big payday. And my plan is to get exciting finishes and just have fun while I'm in there. Put on an exciting, show for the fans and get a finish and fuck the judges. After every fight, I'll say fuck the judges.
Well, as you said, the Cosce brothers, both you and Lewis, have a really great opportunity, as did Chimaev, of there's more eyeballs on the UFC right now. Obviously, football's back, but there's still a lot of things that aren't going on. And I think there's more eyeballs on the UFC right now. And people like Chimaev or you guys can really take advantage of some of the bigger names sitting out or being delayed or whatever it is. And obviously, when it comes down to it, is finishing fights solves a lot of the problems. Whether, no matter what people say, finishing fights. Jumping back to a comment you made about Tony, you said Tony Ferguson over the years has put up some pretty bizarre videos, but I wanted to bring up the video of a couple days ago on Facebook you posted of two guys kicking you in the chest for training. You mentioned it. How often do you do body hardening, I guess is what some people might call it? How often do you do those type of drills?
Pretty much almost every day.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it's not your chin.
Yeah.
It's your body. Your
Yeah.
body should be able to take that. But I wouldn't recommend doing that to your chin or to your head. Like, that's what sparring is for. But even then, in sparring, you should be hands are up here. And if you can protect your body, I mean, every fight I've been in, no one's ever hurt me with a body shot. When I'm at sparring, I don't get hurt with body shots. And that's some of the training I do to help with that. I strengthen my core. I may not look like the most ripped out person in the world, but don't have to be. I go out there, I hurt people, and my core is going to be a lot stronger than most people that do look like they're strong. I don't get hurt when I'll take leg kits, I'll take body kits. I don't give a shit. But that's in sparring, I can do that. And then there are rounds where, maybe Uriah and a couple other coaches be like, hey, Orion, we like that you're doing that to toughen yourself, but now we want you to start moving this round. We want to see you in this round of sparring, do something a little different, take less damage, as if it's an actual fight, and then I'll do that. But some of the rounds, I'll be like, all right, I'm going to let them throw some shots. I want them to throw heavy. That way I can take it during camp. Because if I'm in a fight, you're not going to be able to block every punch. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's that one shot that gets through, but if you can harden your body just in time, if your body can start doing that by itself, it's instinctual training.
Sure.
I do. Everything I do is instinctual training. I'm getting myself ready no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're born with instincts. They say if you put a baby back like this in water in the first couple of weeks of their birth, they'll swim instinctively. We're born with instincts, and you're bringing up instincts that your body wants to protect itself. Your body wants to stay safe. When you think about your comments on how you look, and obviously you're a professional athlete, you look great, but you're not a physique model. You're not an underwear model. And sometimes you get guys that come to UFC that legitimately do look like underwear models, but you're a fighter. So really it comes down to what your body can do in a fight over what it looks like. And obviously you have that going for you pretty strong.
Do you guys remember Roy Nelson?
Yeah, of course. Big country Roy Nelson.
I heard for a heavyweight, he was like one of the fastest and most explosive heavyweights there was. And that's why he was able to do what he was able to do. A lot of people thought he just had a big old fat gut. But what a lot of people didn't realize was whoever actually really hurt him with body shots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, nothing against Matt Dixon, but every time I threw a knee to his body, I don't think he really liked it. Matt is he was a very physique guy. Like he looked good. He looked like one of those model type guys. He looked like the model athlete. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like I put myself through certain types of training versus all my opponents I fought versus future opponents, and even like my training partners. I'm like, all right, let's do this. So fucking crazy, and I'm like, no, this is good for you. This is that old school shit. We're going to do this, and you're going to do this after, and you're going to do this afterwards too. And they're like, what the fuck? But it's good. People need it. It's not your chin, it's your body, it's your legs. If you can toughen up your body in order to take that into a fight, instinctually, you'll be able to handle it.
Sure. Yeah, it also shows that if you follow the NFL, they're talking a lot about Tom Brady bringing his culture to Tampa, the culture about it's team winning. It's not about your records. It's not about you getting, the number of catches. But it sounds like you're having, obviously, Uriah Faber's a legendary Hall of Famer. He already has a great gym. But it sounds like your style and your attitude is sort of influencing the gym. What's it like to see that influence that your attitude and style of approach has on other fighters around you?
I just think that's the kind of person I am. I don't think I'm not even trying to influence people. I'm not trying to be a role model for anybody. I tell people all the time when they say like their kids look up to me, I'm like, awesome. I'm not trying to go and impress people. I'm going to be myself. You know, like when I fight, I don't fight for the fans. I fight for myself. I'm not trying to finish the fight for the fans. It will be exciting because that's just who I am. I want to finish the fight. I don't want somebody else to say, hey, it was a great fight. We think this person won because of this. And I'm just like, that's boring. You're boring. I just want to go out and finish. I want to be myself. I'm never going to censor myself. If somebody asks me, hey, we don't want you to talk about this, I'm going to tell them, if that's something I talk about, then fuck off. That's what I talk about. And that's just how I'm always going to be. You know, I'm going to have my opinion on something. Somebody's going to have their opinion on something. At the end of the day, we can either respect each other or just decide, you know, agree to disagree. Everyone has the right to their own opinions. Some people are just wrong. And that's just the way life goes. So, but I will say this, I do got to get going. I actually have a little bit of stuff to do tonight. I got to get ready for early morning. Do you have any more questions though? If you do, we can answer them. I just thought about like 4 more minutes. That's about it though.
Okay, my last question is more of you as a fan. There's 2 flyweight title fights, that card you're fighting on UFC 255, the women's flyweight and the men's flyweight. Which one do you think is going to be more exciting for you to see as a fan?
Valentina.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. She's great. She's great. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. You've been listening to Orion, the Galaxy Cosce. Orion, thanks so much. Good luck to you in November, UFC 255.
Yeah, I'll talk to you again right after.
All right, bud. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.